Hey guys, I wanted to shoot a little video. One of the things that I didn't get a chance to talk about too much during the seminar was fasting. And fasting is another tool for your toolbox, right? And um, one of the things that one of the guys I like to listen to a lot is this guy named Jordan Peterson. And Jordan Peterson talks about your role as a human being is to go out into the wild or go out into nature or go out into your environment and to learn things and to bring them back to your tribe. And I've always kind of thought about that as my role when it comes to the gym, right? What are the things that I can go out and learn about that I can bring back to you guys so that you can implement into your lives and hopefully make your lives a little bit better? And so we've talked about things like meditation. We've talked about, creating a good sleep environment. We've talked about what kind of foods to eat. And these are all tools for you guys to implement or not implement into your own lives. And some of these things might resonate you and some might not. But the idea is that you should have something in place to satisfy what each one of those tools does for you. And so fasting for me is kind of a multifaceted tool. Like a lot of the things we do, it's not just necessarily one benefit you'll get from it, but a lot of benefits from it. And one of the things that's kind of interesting about fasting is that it's been around for forever, right? There's a lot of religious practices use fasting. People usually have some kind of fasting regimen throughout the year if they do practice a religion like that. And I think that there's some real benefit to examining that. So fasting can come in some different forms, and we'll kind of go over those first. Intermittent fasting has become very popular over the last, I would say 5 years or so. And what intermittent fasting is it is a type of fasting that's done pretty consistently where you're shortening your feeding window. And by feeding window, I mean how long you're feeding throughout the day. So let's say you get up and start eating at 8 a.m. and then you eat your last meal and you finish your last meal by 8 a.m. That would be considered a 12-hour feeding window, and you have a 12-hour fasting window from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. Intermittent fasting can take that form, right? It's not really limited to certain windows, but 12 hours and 12 hours of eating are recommended. You do not want to be eating past 12 hours. So if you're someone who wakes up let's say for the 5:30 a.m. class and you're eating your first meal at 5:30 in the morning, or you're having a snack at 5:15 or whatever on your way to class, and then you're not finishing your last meal until 9:30 at night, you're putting yourself at a pretty high risk of things like cancer, heart disease, because you're not working with your body's circadian rhythms in the way that it needs. It needs periods of time where you are resting, kind of like sleeping, right? You need periods of time where you're not awake. So that gives your body time to recover. And that's really what fasting is about, is giving your body time to recover from the wear and tear of day-to-day activities. We talked about this with the sleep, that being awake is basically low-level brain damage. And that's a kind of a cool way to think about it. So eating is also sort of damaging to the system in the sense that it takes a lot of resources and a lot of energy to digest food. And you can see that across the spectrum of foods, right? Red meat is a lot harder to digest than vegetables, or even like whiter meat, essentially. So back to the feeding windows, right? So a normal intermittent fasting would be like 16 hours of fasting followed by 8 hours of feeding. And that's a pretty common thing for people to do. So in that case, you would stop eating at 8 o'clock the night before and you wouldn't eat until noon the next day. All right. That is considered intermittent fasting. And it's a very useful thing to do if you're looking to lose weight. Because you limit yourself to an 8-hour feeding window, and a lot of you guys are having a hard time hitting your calories in general, right? It kind of constricts your calorie intake. So it's kind of a natural caloric deficit, essentially. When you're first starting out, 16 and 8 might be too much. Maybe you need to go 14 and 10. You can kind of play around with how you get into that. One thing that I found super helpful, there's also been some research on doing like 20 hours of fasting and 4 hours of eating. And there is actually a law of diminishing returns when it comes to fasting. And what they found is some people swear by eating just one meal a day, but it turns out, based on some studies I had listened to, that it actually causes a spike in your cortisol levels that's not necessarily great. So it's a little bit overstressed if you do that one meal a day kind of deal. And you guys know, like, if you're going to try and get 2,000 calories in or 3,000 calories in, there's no chance you're going to be able to sit down and eat all that in one meal. Your stomach would hate you. So beyond the intermittent fasting, then there's longer duration fasting. And there's a lot of benefits to this. This is something that Jen and I try to do once a quarter. And that's a fast of at least a day. And typically we'll go up to 3 days. When you do that, it's important to go into it in the right manner. So one way to go into it is to start eating less carbohydrates right before you go into it. So moving more towards protein and fat the days leading up to that fast. Another way to do it is to do a highly glycotic workout prior to starting your fast. So highly glycotic is kind of like a CrossFit workout, that we're very much sugar burning in that aspect. But what we do is we do an hour on the assault bike. You do 4 minutes on, 4 minutes off for an hour. And 4 minutes on at like a hard pace is a really good sugar burning type of workout. And then you get 4 minutes to recover. So you allow the body to rest and you can tap back into that sugar burning. If you were to just do an hour on the bike, the first like 4 minutes might be sugar burning, but then you're switching to fat oxidation and oxygen, and you're not going to be burning up your sugar. The reason that's important is because when you go into a fast, your body can basically operate off carbohydrates or fat. It can do a hybrid at times, but when you go into a fast and you run out of carbohydrates, you can feel really rough. Imagine like eating a donut, right? After you eat a donut, typically like 30 minutes after you eat a donut, you want another donut, right? Your body gets used to that sugar intake. And the same thing happens with a fast. Once you run out of that sugar, your body can get a little cranky as it switches into that fat burning metabolism. So we do that bike on the first day of the fast, and that kind of just gets you into a fat burning mode because all the glycogen in your system is burnt up. You can think of glycogen as basically sugar. All the sugars burn up in your system, and you switch to fat, and you have enormous amounts of fat reserves on your body, right? Midsection, there's fat on your thighs, butt, right? There's lots of fat throughout the system, and you can burn on that for a while. So why? Why would you do that? Why would you fast? It gives the body time to recover, kind of like sleep does. What it also does, if you can fast for a long enough period of time, it triggers what's called cellular autophagy, which is where your body goes through, and in the absence of exogenous food or outside food, your body goes in and cleans out any dead or mutated cells within your system. A lot of cancers are caused by mutated cells going haywire, right? And just replicating. And a lot of cancer cells thrive on sugar, right? Or carbohydrates. So, or they metastasize based on how much sugar and carbohydrates you have in your system. So that's why keto is very effective in helping with cancer patients while they're receiving chemotherapy. It's actually protective to the body or to the muscle, and it kind of starves the tumors as well. So, with fasting, once you hit a threshold, and there's a little bit of debate back on this, whether it's 48 or 72 hours. Once you hit 72 hours without food intake, you trigger this cellular autophagy, and your body goes through and basically cleans house. And so the reason that Jen and I do it, aside from just having a good reset, is that cancer prevention, right? From a cancer prevention standpoint, you're starving the cancer cells of food for about 3 days, and your body can go through and spend some time cleaning out the system rather than just spending a lot of energy digesting. And that really is the danger in that over 12-hour feeding window, is that you're not giving your body enough time to recover and clean house, essentially. So it's really good for weight loss as well. What we found is that during the fast, you'll be hungry for like the first, you'll have spurts of hunger through the first day. Sometimes the day and a half mark is a little rough, but then after that, you kind of just hit your stride. You'll have a lot of time on your hands because you're not spending time cooking or eating. So it's best to do it during the week so that you have other things going on so you can address them. If you go into it the right way, doing that sugar burning workout, you shouldn't drop a lot of muscle, but instead you should be chewing up a lot of fat. That's why doing that workout is important. When you do the fast like that, it should just be water and a pinch of sea salt. You don't want to dilute your minerals. You can still take vitamins. So if you guys have some vitamins, that's fine. You want to limit anything else though, really. So it's a good time to, it's a really good time to like kick a bad habit if you're trying to go off coffee, or if you're trying to, quit smoking or quit chewing tobacco, or it's a really good, like spiritual reset as well. You guys who are doing the breath work and meditation daily, will feel, a lot more connected to your body, and you'll feel a lot more of what's going on within your body. So I really enjoy it. I've gotten to the point where I really enjoy it. It's kind of like the cold showers. It's like a challenge, but there's something to it. There's some kind of like control aspect of it where you feel like you really, you feel very empowered by it. So this is going to be the challenge for the first part of week 4, is you guys watching this video and then trying some form of fasting, whether it's a 16-8 fast, or if it's a full day or a 3-day fast. I really want you guys to try and implement this as a tool for yourselves for the future. Especially if you're someone who has a real hard time of like falling off the wagon, and putting on or going through periods where you put on a lot of extra weight. Doing a fast is a great way to like snap yourself out of it, right? And it's different than being like anorexic or just not eating, right? You're specifically going into something that's short and acute, right? And it's not chronic. You're going into a short and acute with the idea of kind of resetting your system. Other things on top of that, I would dress warm. You tend to get a little chilly when you fast. There's something called the thermodynamic effect of food, where your body heats up after you have a meal. So when you go for a longer duration fast, you won't experience this if you just do an intermittent fast, but you'll experience it if you do a day or 2 days or 3 days. And that is, you'll be a little chilly. So make sure you guys have something warm for yourselves throughout the day. And let me know if you guys have any questions about that. I've got a ton of resources on fasting, and I'd be happy to share that with you guys. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me know if you need to get in to do the bike workout. For the challenge, right? So if you do a full day of fasting, you get all the points for flawless day of clean eating. You should get your water points. You will get points for your protein macro as well, because for that specific day, your protein macro will be 0. That should be about it. Let me know if you guys have any questions, and I look forward to seeing you guys. Hope you had a good weekend, and I'll look forward to seeing you guys on Monday. Cheers.